2026, we have had 3 lines for Ninjago sets. We have had a lot of additions to the catalogue and a lot of really solid additions at that. But it has called into question, with all of these new sets and with all of these new products to purchase, what are the best ones to actually get your hands on? The amount of choice is honestly quite paralysing, and as someone who does try to get all of the minifigures and all of the sets they do like, I myself have definitely struggled with trying to figure out what I should and shouldn't purchase this year. But it's really gone on to show that this year's entries have been fantastic when it does come to Ninjago. But it does lead to one major question. And that is, of the 3 lines of Ninjago sets we've had, which is actually the best one of 2026? Which is the cream of the crop? Which is the best offering when it does come to the show? All of them are very unique and all have their own pluses, and honestly I need to get one thing out of the way, they are all great, but it's definitely a case of which is the best of the bunch. And that is going to be what I try to answer today. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about the 2026 Ninjago sets and which was the best line of the year. Now, what am I going to base this ranking off of? Well, I have 3 categories to consider. For one, I'm going to base it off of value, both in terms of price and what you actually get for that price. That is one of the most important aspects of all, because you want to spend your money in the correct way. The second thing I'm going to base it off of is the design and the detailing of the sets themselves. What actually comes in those sets, and if it actually does live up to what we should get in terms of Ninjago sets. And the last thing I want to base it off of is my own personal enjoyment of the offerings themselves. I will say above all else that this is my opinion, so that is one of the main things that do come into this, and it's my own outlook on these sets. You very well may disagree with me. Of course, there's a 1 in 3 chance that you will agree with me, so most likely you won't, and that is completely fine. I would love to know why you love the other lines respectively, so please keep that in mind. Honestly, I would love to know why you love the sets, because above all else, it's a conversation about how much we love Ninjago. That is just exactly what I love to hear, and I hope it is what you love as well. But let's actually get into it. The 3 lines that we are considering is the Dragons Rising or main line of Ninjago sets. We're going to be talking about the Legacy 15th Anniversary set, and we're going to be talking about the Legend set that we have also gotten. All of them are meant to represent different things, and that is one thing to make clear. They aren't meant to replace one another, just merely have a different perspective on the exact same show. And I love that. But again, it's very easy to compare. So let's start off with pricing and value when it does come to each respective line. In terms of the Dragons Rising lines, of course we've had 2, but generally speaking, the value per set has definitely been a hit or miss. There have definitely been some sets that I do think live up to the value that they are having to be. For example, I think the Cole's Mission Mech and Dragon Zane set is a pretty good value for money. 3 very solid minifigures, and along with one of the elemental monsters, I do think is really good, and an emphasis on a main build that does look pretty good also is a massive plus. There are a few downsides, of course. There are some sets I do wish were valued at least a little bit better, but they are still a generally good selection. I think the Dragon of Life being 90 is pretty good because you are getting a fairly large dragon. I think also the Kai and Cole combiner vehicles from the Summer Wave is also a really good value for money, along with Zilvar and Grimtak the Dragon Beast. That is, in my opinion, one of the best go-to sets of all of them. These sets have incredible value. I think they've done very well at actually pricing these out properly, so I do think Dragons Rising on an overall has done decently well. I do think you're getting some fairly solid sets for the price, even though there may be a few outliers, but the only ones that I can personally think of outliers are the 4+ sets, and that is a problem across every single theme. The next wave to consider in terms of value is going to be Legacy. Legacy has only had a few sets over the year, but they've definitely been varying in terms of their price points. Now I will say, Legacy has the best value set of all of Ninjago. The Character Display 15th Anniversary is a fantastic set and gives you every single ninja for £35. That is undeniably fantastic, and there's a reason why it's one of the most popular sets. But the thing is that some of the other editions have definitely called it into question. The Lloyd's Titan Mech 15th anniversary set being 120 was definitely a lot to chew. That is definitely up there in terms of pricing, but I do think it was worth it. As the owner of the sets, I am not disappointed whatsoever. I also think Old Town was pretty good for its value as well. Coming with 30 plus minifigures, I believe, it's done fantastically. And not only does it have all those minifigures, so many iconic ones at that. All of the Ninja, Time Twins, 2 versions of Garmadon, Harumi, Loyalists, Dr. Julian. It's absolutely fantastic for what we actually did get. But the thing is that with all these positives does come a downside. Because you do have the likes of the other sets that may be more debatable in terms of their pricing. I know a lot of people think 4 Weapons Blacksmith Shop isn't the best in terms of value. I don't necessarily agree, but I know that is my hot take. But one of the biggest ones of all is most definitely the X1 Ninja Charger. That one is fairly universally believed to be too expensive for what it truly is, and I fully agree with that. It is way too expensive, and I am not happy with it whatsoever. But the thing is that it still is something at the very least. But I do think in the grand scheme of things, it's an overall decent in terms of price point, just definitely varied, because it's some of the best with some of the worst. And now lastly are the new Legend sets. We are getting a few of them this time round, and they are definitely got the high price point attached to them. I believe the cheapest of the sets is the Dragon Blade Battle for £80. There are some really expensive contenders, and I will say I don't personally own any of them as of the time of filming this video, but I do think it's relatively decent in terms of its scale of value. For example, the Ultra Dragon Battle is £180, but it does come with 2200 pieces. That is pretty good, and you're getting a really cool looking set to go along with it. Of course, there are features of that set that I don't know about, but in terms of quality and value per part, it really isn't all that bad. So I do think on an overall in terms of value, all of them are fairly good contenders, but I do think, genuinely speaking, the best one in terms of value is going to be Legacy. I do think Legacy has got an overall fantastic value for what you're getting. There are outliers, like I said, but the thing is that I do think some of the sets are undeniably fantastic. All of these waves have really good deals, but I don't think I can ignore the value of the 15th anniversary character display. That is simply undeniable in how fantastic it is, so it has to get the credit that it does deserve. So Legacy is taking the first point. The second category, like I said, to talk about is going to be the design and detailing of all of the sets, starting off again with Dragon's Rising. Again, we've got a large variety of sets to actually talk about here, but I do think it is, generally speaking, a very mixed bag. I think there are some absolutely amazing looking sets. I think the Land Bounty is pretty good looking. I think the Transforming Mech Dragon is also a really nice looking set. I also do think that some of the smaller sets are pretty solid, but I do think, just generally speaking, there are the odd few that I do think could be a little bit better. The ones that do come to mind to me are the combiner vehicles. They just look really weird in terms of their proportions, and also just some of the smaller sets as well. But I do think, generally speaking, the detailing is quite good. Now, taking the detail into consideration when it comes to Legacy. Legacy is done fantastic in terms of how it looks. Each and every single set has an amazing level of detail that I can't help but ignore. 4 Weapons, for example, is an amazingly detailed piece. It has so many pieces in such a small build, but it really does show it in the detailing. The 15th anniversary display is also fantastic, but you cannot deny how good Old Town is. Speaking from someone who has built it, there are so many references jam-packed that you wouldn't even see on an initial glance. So many little bits and pieces hidden away in the set, it is absolutely amazing. And I just can't help but love that. There is a reference to every single season within this set, and that is something that I really need to think about. Even the sets that have terrible value, like the X1 Ninja Charger, still has a lot of detailing, so it definitely does do well in that regard. But you quite simply cannot deny the fact that the Legend sets have detailing down to a T. The thing is that each and every single one of those sets is absolutely glorious looking. They are dioramas by all accounts. They are still set pieces to actually observe, and they look amazing because of it. The detailing from the Ultra Dragon to the Great Devourer to the Titan mechs has just been absolutely amazing. I just simply cannot deny how good all of these sets look, and I really do think they are unbeatable in terms of what they do accomplish. So in terms of design and detailing, I can't help but give it to Legends. That is the reason why they exist. That is why we have them. They are the hyper detailed, hyper specific looks that we do look for within those expensive sets. They are rated in terms of the age rating above the rest for a reason. I just think that every single time I look at them, I can't help but be impressed. So it just quite simply had to take the point. There is just no way around it for me. I really just think that Legends has got it exactly where it counts. So it takes its first point as well. Which brings us down to the last category of the lot, which is my own personal enjoyment of these sets. Now, this is definitely a difficult one because it is what will decide the winner for me. And the thing is that it is the most biased category of the lot. But let's go into it regardless. Starting off with Dragons Rising, I think they have some really solid offerings, but at the minute, it's just not overly for me. I still do buy a lot of Dragons Rising sets, and I really like all the Dragons Rising sets, but there's a lot of them that I just quite simply skip out on because I just don't really want them, and that is just a massive shame. Take the Season 4 Part 2 sets for example. Who knows if I'll pick up the Land Bounty, or who knows if I will be picking up the Combiner vehicles. There are ones that I will definitely be getting, like the Zilvar set, and also possibly the Transforming Dragon Mech, but the thing is that that doesn't make a full wave, and I just think that is a very defining thing for me. So in terms of my personal enjoyment, it's not overly there, but it still is present. Again, then is Legacy, and I have to say in terms of enjoyment, it has been through the roof for me. I've been picking up everything and anything when it does come to Legacy. I adore what they have been doing with this line, and I can't help but spend my money on it. I have Old Town, I have the Tire Mech, 4 weapons, the character display, I have Cole's car, I have the BAM minifigures, I will be getting the X1 Ninja Charger. It is undeniable that this wave has definitely been having me spend my money, and that is something I cannot deny, just simply because of just how much I'm out in the hole when it does come to these ones. So personal enjoyment, it is definitely there. And lastly is Legends. Legends definitely does have a personal degree of enjoyment, but for me personally, it's another one of those waves that I probably won't pick up every single set. I am near confident that I will be getting the Ultra Dragon Battle. That is one that I simply cannot deny with how good it looks. But in terms of the Twin Titan mechs and also the Battle of the Dragon's Blades, I'm just not really sure if I'll pick these up. They are really cool sets and I hope to get them, but they're just not stealing the show like the other ones are for me. I had to pre-order Legacy. I didn't have to for these ones, and I think that is the most defining thing of the lot. So I do think with that in consideration, personal enjoyment has to go to Legacy for me. And that means of all of the set lines of 2026, my personal opinion on the best one of the lot is going to be Legacy. That may not come as a shock to a lot of people, but honestly, it was a fairly difficult competition in my opinion. Legends and Dragons Rising is doing stellar this year, and I cannot deny that, and I have to emphasize that above all else. Ninjago has a very clean track record this year, and it definitely does deserve its credit. But if I had to pick between any of them, I am picking Legacy, and I have been picking Legacy so far. But I do think that could change in any given year. Next year, it could be Dragons Rising for me. Who truly knows? But this is my opinion on the best wave of the year. And this is where I want to pass it off to you guys. Because I would love to know, do you agree with me with Legacy being the best wave of the year? Do you think it's the best line we've got for Ninjago? And if not, I would love to know which one it is for you. I would love to know which line has got you spending your money. Which line are you waiting for? I do think it's very curious to know, and I definitely do think there's an argument for all of them. So I can't wait to hear what you think, but that is what I think. But thank you very much for watching the video, and I do hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please consider subscribing. I love discussing Ninjago with more people. And if you do want to support the channel any further, which you do not have to, you could always become a channel member and join the legends that you see on screen. Each of you, your support means the absolute world to me, and I cannot thank you enough. But like I said, that is about it for today, and take care. Okay, bye!